So I guess we can slowly get started. So in the first four topic, we covered the very basic of the macroeconomic theory. Usually, if you do the econ department, that's what you learn in the one semester. Of course, we do it in half a semester. Then it must mean that we skip a lot of stuff, right? We cut the corner. Basically, we skip all the proofs. So if you don't go to the econ department, learn the formal micro sequence, they would learn every single proof. So if you really want to continue your journey uh, in theory, then probably you need to study the proof we omit. But I think we already give you the main idea what's behind and cover some of the proofs. So I hope it should be fine. And for the next, someone should be here. Should I turn on the light a little bit? I don't know. Yeah. So for the remaining four topics, I will cover game theory. If I have time, I cover some more stuff, which I think they're useful. Maybe I cover some contract theory, some moral hazard agency theory, or matching problem or auction problem, depend on time. But I think I cover the very main core of micro theory. If you go to the econ department, that's will cover for those semester. So for game theory, let us very briefly review the game theory. And by game theory, usually it means that it's the non-cooperative game theory, which they would divide the study into four different parts. This would be the four topics we discuss. And in the general equilibrium, we talk about core, the idea of core, and in fact that is related to cooperative game theory. Okay, that was not the main focus of our class. If our time, we can cover those, but meanwhile, we are not concerned ourselves with that. And if you study further, they will notice they are very complementary to each other, especially when we talk about market design, mechanism design problems. But let us very briefly go over the reference, because I guess it would not be sufficient for the purpose. If you solve the model, I think the lecture slides will be sufficient. But if you want to go further, these are the paper that you might want to take a look, especially the first one, which is a very short paper, a review paper that give you the main idea what we are covering. And also recommend that is the beside the first one, probably you should read this book, which is probably one of the most accessible game theory at the graduate level. And you should have time and try to do some exercise that has solution already. So some of the question have solution already. You should do those. And there's a lot of interesting application that you can take a look. And many textbook with game theory section. So I kind of see there shouldn't be lack of the resources that you would can find for game theory. So how to proceed from game theory, assuming that you have no class from game theory. If I assume this is right, if you have learned it, then it's good. But we make no assumption that you learned game theory before. So we start from monopoly and perfect competition. And in the middle point, we will discuss why and when you want to use game theory, right? In the classical microeconomic analysis, we focus on two extreme cases. And in those cases, game theory is not very useful, okay? But first example is monopoly, right? Monopoly means that the seller is facing the whole market. That means that he or she can choose either price quantity at his own will, as long as satisfy the demand curve. In that case, there's no strategic element there. You just choose whatever that would maximize problem, become a standard optimization problem. And the well-known solution you will see is the marginal result, right? It's the marginal revenue, marginal cost, right? Or if you like quality, it will be marginal quality, right? Same as the marginal cost, so and so forth. So it's a very standard analysis. And when perfect competition, also Western analysis, because every agents, including the consumers or the sellers, are all price takers. In that case, we assume that what they do is not affecting the whole market, right? So what a firm is going to decide will be taking the price from the market as given, right? We take the market price as given, he just produce according to what he think is the market price, right? So as long as the seller think that what he is going to do has no impact on the market, and that is a right model, right? So everyone is small, right? Then that is the case, right? Then that would be the case that no one have market power, and these two types of model has no problem, right? And which is often the case, right? When talk about big firms and more or less they have market power, right? Or they have no market power, right? Mostly, I think this is more or less complete if you learn in the undergraduate, right? But you do notice these days, right? In the old days, that is also the case, right? Because in the old days, right, there's either the seller in the town is the only guy who's doing the stuff, right? He monopolizes particular type of stuff, or there are many farmers are selling the same product. It's perfect competition, right? So, but probably you learn the econ history, right? And the rise of railway, rise of transportation, that give rise to national firm, corporation, big corporation, right? That's why we are doing, right? That why we're a business school, right? The B school arise because of the rise the need of manager to manage company in different part of the town, right? Or national scale or the state scale. So that's a reason. But when you have multiple firm only and each firm action will affect each other, then you would need a game theory. So let's go to the model of monopoly, right? Monopoly, you have a production, right? Inverse demand, cost function. And the monopoly is just choosing the quantity, right? And taking the demand curve as given, cost is also given, right? In this case, monopoly is looking at the theta market. The theta market is perfect competitive, right? So in that case, then everything is nice. And perfect competition, again, is also the same, but the price depends on other people production. Suppose a firm one, right? The total price depends on Q2 up to Qn. But if firm one thing that his price, his quantity changes doesn't affect the market price, right? And in that case, then it does optimization, right? Just basically standard MR to MC. That's very simple, right? Then it's resolve the equilibrium. That's no problem, right? And that's a nice story. But the problem is in between 1 and n, right? So it's two corner cases is well studied in the classical microeconomic class. But the point is when you have something in the middle, right? Not infinity or 1, right? Somewhere 2, 3, or 4 up to 10, right? In that case, then, well, that can be problematic, right? Because what you should do depend on what other people might have done, right? Just like playing chess, right? Or rock, paper, scissors, right? It depends on what is the best strategy. It depends on what others are doing, okay? So game theory, or probably you should put it as Rubinstein call, right? Interactive decision theory, right? Just like how what you should do depend on what others is doing, right? So you need to try to figure out what might be the appropriate solution, right? Because people are not independent, right? So it's a dependent decision-making environment. So what might be the outcome, okay? And the approach we use for today is game theory, right? Or more precisely, non-cooperative game theory, which means that each individual will make their own decision. So for example, this is very classical duopoly problem where you have two firms and they choose quantity. Okay? It's like quantity competition and quantity competition, right? So obviously, if the other firm is not producing anything, you should produce monopoly, right? If the other guy is already producing a lot, probably you don't want to produce that much, right? Because the price is so low that you produce at the monopoly level, then not going to work, right? So the question is, what would be a prediction, right? Because what firm one should produce depend on firm two, and for what firm two produce depend on firm one. So they become a circular logic. Right? How to solve this problem? Because chicken or egg problem, right? Who is going to be the appropriate answer, right? It's not unclear. It's not very clear. How do you solve this kind of question? And if you learn game theory, then you notice that as there will be this is a 2x2 matrix, right? Depend on you talk about the environment is static or dynamic, right? It's over time or one-off. Or you think about this as a complete information, or in complete information there are 4 different types of games and 4 different types of solution, right? And of course, the most basic one you could talk about today is called Nash equilibrium. And if you build up more, then you'll be much more complicated solution concept. But you see we're building up something slowly, okay? And it's one build up on the others, okay? And of course, by no means that these 4 are the only solution that you consider. And these all 4 solutions, the most common and most accepted one in the literature. Of course, you can invent something new as long as it makes sense. And more often than not, you see in application in business journal, they would invent their own equilibrium concept so that they can solve the problem. The reason is because of if you try to solve this very standard solution, the model can be very complicated. So they may actually reduce to some kind of equilibrium, but not exactly Nash equilibrium or any doesn't fall into this. It's somewhere in the middle. But later you read the paper, you will know, notice. Okay. So today we focus on the most simple game, which is called game of complete information. Okay. And the way we do is a strategic form game. Okay. And don't worry, this is very simple. It's like a math problem because this is invented by mathematicians. So that's why game theory is mainly, you can notice the way we write or understand is different from what we have. Is more like mathematical style. So we have to be very careful in how to define a game. A game here is an interaction decision. It's a static game, which means that the players only play once and for all. And it's complete information, so everyone knows everything. Okay. So, and the first thing is most important is who are the players. Okay. And you may probably would not aware this is very important because in your model there are many agents. Can be many agents, right? Maybe say in our model we just say firms are competing, right? And potentially consumers are also, or customers are also in the model, right? They are also the agent. But these we are just being lazy, or we just cannot do so much stuff, and then we assume a downward sloping demand curve, right? The P of Q, right? So basically, the consumer are not the players, right? And whether this assumption is right or wrong, it depends on context, right? If you talk about a supply chain, right? Maybe upstream, downstream, right? If they may respond, right, along the chain, then you cannot really safely assume that that is a demand curve, right? Because maybe you're modeling competent upstream, right? But the downstream actually can respond to what upstream is doing, right? So maybe the upstream is not competing, right? The downstream may actually backward integrate, right? So that's possible. right? Consider a case where you have EV and your battery, right? Electric cars, right? And maybe electric cars are people have monopoly, right? Or have oligopoly. And in that case, maybe the downstream Tesla may go up and do R&D or engage in battery production, right? So these happen, right? Or so that means that, I mean, who are the player have to be well specified. So I mean, if you are not trained from game theory formally, then you probably miss that point. Have to be defined very clearly what are the player. And of course, this usually you will not make a mistake, but the second one, you usually have to be super careful. You define carefully what can players do. And by carefully means that usually if the script you choose action 1, action 2, action 3, usually it's not a problem, right? But if you are more complicated, you say choose a number, you have to be well defined what number is available, right? It's 0 to infinity or 0 to a maximum number. And that has a computation because compactness and or whether things are nice or you have a particular special thing, then has some complication for say existence of certain solution concept that you would be interested in. Okay, so that the two things. And the last one is the payoff. What people do would affect the payoff, right? And especially your payoff would depend only on your choice and other choice, right? Other agents, other players' choice. And otherwise, if they're not dependent on other players' choice, then it's no game theory, right? So that is the last bullet point, right? The payoff actually depends on what other people choosing. Okay. And very often the payoff function is also a lot of paper is not very well defined. I mean, especially in a lot of papers that even in top journals. Some of the problem is they're not well defined is, okay, especially later when you learn multiple stage game, is people would not define payoff function in the scenario that may not realize on the equilibrium, right? Maybe firm exit was a payoff, it's not well defined. Okay, maybe you normalize to 0 or not, it's not clear, right? Where there may be exit costs doing so, right? So that is something that have to be very careful. But later you will see. But these are the 3 elements that we need to define every single game of comp information. Okay, so that is only 3 things we need. So usually this is the case. We have a player set, right? We usually in generic is 1 up to n. Okay. In duopoly, you have firm 1 and firm 2. Okay. And do note that the customers are not in the game, right? In oligopoly will be 1 up to n, right? So you have to be very careful what should be there and what shouldn't be there. Okay. Say government, so the government be there, right? Sometimes government should be in the picture, right? The government may do somebody, may do policy, right? And these are the things that you have to be super careful, okay, in your model. And strategy set, we use the capital S, I to denote player size strategy, and generic element is S sub I, okay? And so in discrete will be, say, you can produce 0, 1, or 3 units, and it'll be 0, 1 up to 3, or it's continuous, okay? And do note that when you go to continuous, things can become complicated, okay? And there's a complication of existence of equilibrium. So these are the things that have to be very careful when you do the model that has not been solved by other people. So when you venture into unknown domain, that have to be very careful. And in general, games strategy set may not be symmetric, right? Firm 1 and firm 2, say for example, in duopoly, they may not have the same access of the strategy set, right? So firm 1 may be subject to capacity of 10, and firm 2 may be 20, then the strategy set will be for Firm 1 will be 1 from 0 up to 10, and S2 will be 0 up to 20. Okay. So that would be the model. Okay. Now I think we're ready to define what we call strategy profile, right? The last item is a collection or collector, or a list of the strategy for all players. Okay. And the capital S is the Cartesian product for all players. Okay. And based on this strategy profile, we can define payoff function will be based on everybody's strategy, right? You give me a number, a utility, and for utility, it is the payoff. Okay, it's a number. Okay, and you probably would ask at this point of time, can we do preference? Yes, you can do preference, but we are not going to. I mean, that's the same, or more than the same, right? Because you notice that if strategy, right, it's continuous, then everything you can represent by utility. Okay, but I think for business world, I don't see there's a problem because payoff is just representation of preference. Okay, so it shouldn't be a big issue unless there's some thing that doesn't satisfy that. Usually we naturally assume there's payoff there. So that means that we can define formally. People will look at this is the normal form game. This is the formal way to write. So this is something expect you write in your paper. You ever write a model. So if you write a model, you have to define 3 items. Okay, and define the player set, strategy set, and payoff function. Okay, so this is the standard way to write. Okay. Even though some paper doesn't write it formally, then you should at least let the reader actually know these 3 things in verbal terms. Who are players, what they can do, what the consequence of what they are doing. And do it informally. The problem is you have to fully describe all possible strategy profile, how they map to the payoff. If not, then the description is not complete. And you probably ask why we need to have a complete description of payoff function. The reason is being that when you calculate the solution concept of the prediction we want to have is rely on a complete description. If you are missing something, that is a problem. Okay, so it's an example. It's a duopoly game. Each firm choose quantity, right? It's well defined, and the utility is well defined because this is defined for every Q, right? And probably the question would, if I write this, the question probably is this make sense, right? And of course, if you apply it to the Carnot, that makes sense a lot, right? But does this still make sense if this go negative? You have to think, right? Because Q can be very large, right? And if you don't allow to be bounded below by 0, then you actually don't allow firm to exit, right? So when you write this thing, implicitly you make a lot of assumption here, right? You don't allow firm to exit, right? And may or might be or not, depend on whether you allow Q 0 is 0, right? So depends on how you write the model. Okay. So probably you would know how to solve the game we have this game, right? This normal form game, right? And this kind of game, right? The main solution concept we use is called Nash equilibrium. Okay. But in this particular game, we learn something less restrictive. Okay. And indeed, equilibrium concept we learn is the somewhere in the middle ground. Okay. And they are much weaker concept, much weaker than Nash equilibrium. In this case, it's strict dominance. Okay. And much easier. The reason why we have to introduce this in our game theory class is experiment do show that Nash equilibrium might be one of the best solution, but sometimes it doesn't fit very well. So we want a less restrictive solution concept. And in this case, we have is called strict dominance. And you notice that the way the rationality required is very low, right? Because Nash equilibrium, as we'll see soon, require people are very smart, okay? And strict dominance require very little calculation, right? Because we know from, probably you know from other class, there's a other behavioral constraint or mental calculation capacity where people are not able to do something even very straightforward, right? Very obvious. And only if people are very, very straightforward, people would be there, right? So one thing that I think is very obvious, right? If you're given two choices, right? And A and B, right? If no matter what the other guy do, A is worse than B, right? Strictly worse than B, you will never choose A, right? So suppose you go to a restaurant, right? They give you a menu, right? And menu 1 and menu 2 are the same, except one the menu is more expensive than the other, right? There's no reason you would choose the more expensive one, right? And that's the idea, right? So unless you like lower payoff, right? People like higher payoff. No matter what other people choose, it's always higher than you shouldn't be chosen, okay? And that is called the strictly dominated or strictly dominates, okay? So formally speaking, it's like this. Given the strategy SI, okay, is dominated by another strategy SI hat, okay? Hat is better if for all possible cases, S minus I is except I, what other people choose, all other possible scenario, okay? SI hat is strictly better, okay? So under no matter what, SI hat is better than SI, okay? And I guess there's no reason, and no one can convince me I will choose SI, right? So that would be the idea, okay? So, and usually if you see the literature, the weak dominance is replacing the strict inequality to the weak one. And sometimes some paper, actually later you see some of them is actually, they would want to assume, we need to assume further, is assuming player would not choose weakly dominated strategy, okay? But of course, there will be consequence of doing so. But it's often in auction or other incomplete setup because there are many equilibrium. So you want to impose some mild condition, okay? But this still makes sense, okay? But you take out some of the prediction if you want to take away those, okay? It's not necessary that this is the right thing, but at least I would think the strict dominance is without harm, you can assume, okay? Now, if every player take out their stupid strategy and the only thing that left for every agent, every player is only one strategy is left over, then we call that game is dominant solvable, okay? So then it's very clear that if no player you believe that is crazy, right? Then that would be the prediction we have, right? Okay. So let's look at these. I think I would probably say or probably the most famous game from the game theory. Okay, probably you would learn that if you learn it undergrad, is the most famous case, right? Is a policeman actually caught two criminals. They caught that with their guns in their car, okay, in front of the bank, okay. And if none of them tell actually they're trying to rob the bank, right? And then the policeman can only, okay, they charge them for offense for having guns, right? Illegal possession of guns, and that's it, right? And probably each of them actually go to 1 year in jail, okay? And if both of them, okay, tell the police, okay, actually we are going to rob the bank, right? And both of them try to report each other because the police separate them in different rooms, right? If both of them try to turn their teammate, then they go to jail for 6 years, okay? But if one guy DVA, right, if one guy, just only one guy tell, the other guy not, right? The guy reporting to the police a defector, right, will go for free because he just successfully trialed the other guy, right? So he got a deal and go free. The other guy who was, because it's dishonest, he will get 9 years, right? Because you get free deduction because you are honest, right? So if you try to write this, it becomes the game represented by this matrix, okay? And this matrix is a full description of what we said. First, you have the player set, which represent, in this case, 2 players, player 1 and player 2. And for each player, the role player, the strategy was represented by the first column there, right? C and D, cooperate, or defect, right? Cooperate means they would keep their mouth shut, right? D is defect, is tell the police the truth, right? And player 2 also have C and D, right? So basically, it's a complete description of 2 items, players and strategy. And the matrix here represent the payoff, right? With the first number for the role player, second number for the column players, okay? So these 4 pairs of number represent payoff. So this is a complete description. So whenever you see this, it's complete description. Of course, this only as good as go for discrete and very nice simple problem, right? In our application, we will go way beyond that, but it's good to start with here. So here, why it's important, because it tells you the fundamental problem of collaboration, right? There's always a selfish choice, right? That would benefit if other people are being collaborative, right? And that actually you will see for player 1, right? If player 2 choose C, right? Choosing C for player 1 give -1, opposed to 0, right? So in that case, if player 2 is not telling the story to the police, it's better off I tell, right? Because I'd rather go free rather than go to 1 year in jail, right? And suppose that the guy tell the police, right? If I remain silent, I get 9 years in the jail. If I tell the police, I get 6 years, right? Compare 6 and 9, go to 9, 6, right? So no matter what other people do, okay, D is really better, right? So that means that unless I'm crazy, right? If I only play this game once and for all, I will always choose D. Okay, there's no reason to convince me I will choose C at all, right? So if you expect people are not stupid, what you left is D and D. Okay, so that is what, if you watch the movie called Beautiful Mind, actually he claimed this is, if you ever watch it, I recommend you watch it. That one he claimed this is his finding is a fundamental challenge to the Adam Smith, where market outcome is Pareto efficient, right? We learn first welfare theorem, right? When people interact, right? When you say people are selfish, right? People are working for their own goal, then it's going to work for the society, right? Because that is the Adam Smith's idea is, right? Is the modern liberalism, right? The individual freedom and individual choice. Actually, at the end of the day, being selfish for everyone actually is not going to harm society, right? So that is the foundation of the Western philosophy, right? Why liberty is good, right? And if you learn that, it's because of the downfall of the religion, right? And they figure out that, okay, nothing is going to govern, right? There's no more Lord, no more people controlling the society. Then if people act according to their wishes, it's going to work or not, right? And Adam Smith said, okay, it's okay, right? Because of the farmer growing the food, it's not for you, but it's want to earn more money, right? The butcher want to cut their meat, right? Because he want to earn more money from you, right? And so on and so forth, right? That means that everyone doing what the best for themselves is actually good, right? We're in the presence of market. But I mean, this classical example actually show you that, no, wait a minute, right? In this very simple cases, right? As long as you're not stupid, conflict between people actually can go to very worst case. Why? Because the Pareto optimal efficient one is C and C, right? Negative 1 to 1. This is way better for both of them, right? If there's some way they can do, they want to go here rather than here, right? So this is something why we are stuck in there, right? That is the main issue. We're stuck there, right? And if you look at the big literature on political economy, political science, they actually, this is the fundamental thing they study. And they try to understand how from here to here, right? And probably you know, right? We have just who won the Nobel Prize in economics is Acemoglu, right? Acemoglu claimed what? Institution will allow us here to here, right? It's because of institution that allow us to collaborate on here, because we basically we don't allow this to happen, right? So what's institution in this criminal society? No, you guys are in Hong Kong, right? There are Hong Kong many movie of the trial society. So if you're going to defect, then they will kill your whole family, right? So that's a mechanism they impose. Or if you being a good guy, they will reward you with money, right? We see a lot of movie, right? Right, this slide, right? If you take it up, then we'll pay you $1 million or several $1 million for. This is some way to do it, right? And since you're B school, right? So how you from here to here is important. That is the arise of the firm, right? If individual they do things cannot do well, and that is the reason why you're firm. Firm is the way to suppress the market and decided, and worker 1 and worker 2 should do C rather than D, right? That is the worker that the firm, the manager, would make them do C rather than D, right? Use of force or use of power, right, is to force them to do things, okay? And another remark would be, this is something that underlines what we call the repeated game literature, which we'll talk about next class. Is the main drawback of this is because of they only meet once, right? If people interact daily, which we often do, right? then we should be able to see there's some collaboration goes on. Okay, and this already you can find in the experiment. Okay, if you just do once, then likely that you will have defect, right? If you repeat interaction, right, then more likely that you would see more collaboration goes on, right? And that means that you will be more likely to end up in here rather than here if people keep go on the relation, right? So that is the idea behind. Okay. So I hope the strict dominance solution makes sense, right? Just take away something stupid, right? So this is very simple. I mean, you don't require a lot of cognitive capacity, the mental skill to do it. But now we going to push it to the limit, okay? Or push it a little bit further, is to keep applying what we have seen again, okay? What I mean is, if I take away something stupid, you take away something stupid, once it's over, it becomes a simple game. And this simple game, we can keep doing it, do the same concept, okay? Of course, you can stop somewhere, okay? But we can actually go to the very end. That is called iterated strict dominance, okay? You can actually do somewhere in the middle, right? Either do one step, you can do infinite step, but you can do somewhere in the middle is also fine, okay? But we focus on these two extreme cases, okay? And in experiment, you will see sometimes they focus on 2-step, 3-step, 4-step as well. But so we say the game is solved by this repeated application if there's a unique outcome after you apply, okay? The example is like this. It's an artificial example. Usually most of the game can't solve like this, but there's some small game you can solve it. Okay, how do you solve this problem? Okay, and look at player one, right? And player two, the two players, and player one have strategy U and D, and player two have strategy LCR. Okay, and there's a 6 pairs of payoff, and unfortunately, player one cannot say U is better or D is better because U is better under LC, D is better under R, right? 2 better than 0, right? So it's not entirely clear whether U is better or D is better. For player 2, it's also the same. It's unclear which one's better, right? Say, compare L and C, right? C is better under U. Under D, L is better. Compare C and R, U is better. Under U, C is better. Under D, C is better than R, right? So in that case, at least the first thing you can do is C is better than R, right? Under no circumstances, you would choose R, right? Because C is always better. So if we impose the strict dominance, then R is gone, okay? And the end, if you only allow us to apply once, okay? And your prediction will be any 4 outcome is possible. That's a prediction. But if we are more ambitious, we think that player 1 and player 2 are smart, okay? And they can continue what they're doing, okay? If player 1 knows player 2 is smart, right? And player 2 know player 1, know player 2 is smart, okay? And they so on and so forth, right? Then they know R is not there. And they're playing this game, okay? And once they play this game, then it's clear that for player 1, U is better than D, right? Because U is uniformly 1 and D uniformly 0. So if they all know they're smart, then D is also gone. Okay, the second row and the last column is gone. So what is left is player 1 has no choice. It basically chose U, right? And player 2 can choose between L and C. And obviously C is better than L, right? So they use the player 2, which was C center, right? Rather than left and right. So the only outcome, what you predict in this model is U and C. Do note that in this model, these are very smart people, okay, able to see it. I'm not sure I can see it, okay? But some experiment has shown that if they play long enough, this kind of game, they know it. Okay. They can end up in there. But I don't know if outside experiment is still hold or not. Okay, but that would be the idea behind. Okay, and clearly in this particular example, you actually can find which dominates which one. So look at player 1 at UMD up, middle, and down, and obviously compare up and down, right? You can't tell because depend L or C, right? And you compare M and D. M is better under L, but it's worse under C. Okay, and compare U and M. Under R, D is better, but under C, U is better. So you can't say U and D. Okay. What about player 2? L, C, R. Okay. And you can see under U, L is better than C, but under M, C better than M. So there's no way you can tell L or C. Okay. Compare C and R. Okay. Under M, C is better than R. But under D, R better than C. So you can't say compare C and R. Okay. And compare L and R. Okay. Under U, L is better than R. And under D, R is better than L. Okay. So you can't say uniformly which one is better. So if you impose that people are smart, then you have no prediction. I mean, you predict everything is possible. There's no prediction at all, right? So it can't be solved, right? And that's why we're stuck, right? What is the solution for this? Okay. And that's why the genius, probably you would agree, John Nash actually come up with a solution for this kind of model, right? He proposed that, which we talk about after the break, is what we call Nash equilibrium. And let me stop with this slide. And then we go to break. Very simple. The idea is look at all possible outcome that's available, right? In our case, there we just have 9 outcomes. Okay. We want to check for each profile, okay, each entry there, is it the case that any agent want to depart from it? If not, it's equilibrium. Okay. Formally speaking, is we will say a straight profile. Profile is means that the set of the strategy, list of strategy here, right? If that under the equilibrium, what people have, okay, must be greater than or equal to what they can have when they break away from this, keeping the other people the same. Okay, that means that Nash equilibrium in layman work is an outcome where if your opponent doesn't change, you don't want to change, right? If opponent doesn't move, you don't move, right? That is a classical strategy when you have Kung Fu theme, right? Is 敌不动我不动, right? The other people not moving, I'm not moving. So that is exactly what it is. Okay. And let me stop here for the break for 15 minutes, and we can come back and apply this to examples and the existence and all the property there. But that's a definition, and we'll use it for after the break. Okay, let's have a break of 15 minutes. So we will resume at 1:35. So let's get back. Nash equilibrium, as we have said, is to check how to find it is to check every single possible strategy profile and check each agent or each player whether they want to change or not, or whether there's another strategy that lead to a higher payoff. All right. So that has to be checked every single one. So have to be slowly done. So first, although this equilibrium solution concept actually more useful than dominance, and it need not exist. And indeed, existence, under what condition it exists, is a big thing in the literature. Okay. And the second is when you have Nash equilibrium, you can have more than one. So it's not unique. So when it's not unique, there's a multiple equilibrium. And the problem is when you have more than one, then which one to be selected is a problem. And then there are many ways to select. We'll briefly mention those. And we have to choose some of them. And then you have to propose some idea why you pick the particular one for analysis. And the last one we have already seen, right? Equilibrium need not be Pareto efficient, and that will be the percent dilemma. And need is somewhat we say is a market failure, or that first welfare theorem doesn't apply. Okay. So let's see the example where you don't have a equilibrium here. So this common game is called the matching pennies game, which is just like two guys take out the coin. If the coin match, then player 2 wins $1. If the coin doesn't match, then player 1 wins. Maybe call pay by pay, right? I think in China context. And it's a simplified version of rock paper scissors. Okay, you can imagine. Okay. And say under head and head, player 1 lose, right? Under tail and tail, player 1 lose. Otherwise, the different player 1 wins. And sum up must be 1. So sum up is 0, right? Head head, then player 1 lose $1, player 2 win, and tail tail, and player 1 lose. Otherwise, they're different, then player 1 win $1. Okay, so that is the game. And you can easily check that we check each outcome. No outcome are Nash equilibrium. Why? Check head and head. Player 1 want to become tail, right? And tail, player 1 want to become head. Okay, and tail and head, this one, player 2 want to become head, right? If player 1 got -1, you should become head, then the same, right? And if tail head, then -1 want to become tail, right? Because it's very simple. For the outcome that actually the loser want to change, right? Suppose player 1 is losing, okay, which is they're different. They want to make it the same. When the same, player 2 want to win it different, right? So no one actually have that. Okay. So is there any prediction from this? The answer is actually you expect, as rock paper scissors, you would expect is both player actually would not play a what we call the pure strategy, which we'll define later. It's called the mixed strategy. It's not going to choose a particular one. Rather, they would randomize, toss a coin to choose either head or tail, right? Just like rock paper scissors. What is the winning strategy? Is not to choose a particular form, right? You would not choose rock always, or scissors, or paper, right? Always you would 1/3 over one of them, right? That is the best strategy that you should do. Okay, but we'll talk about this soon. And here we have the problem of multiple equilibrium. And this is also very famous game here. This one is called coordination game. Okay. And we have villager. Okay. They are in the early society. They have to decide to do hunting, right? They have to go for big animal or small animal, stag or hare, right? It's a big animal or small animal. Okay. If they go for the small animal, hare, each of them get payoff of 5, okay, which represented by the last cell in the matrix. Okay. Or they both go to the big animal, which get 10, which is good, right? Because they get the big animal, they got the gold there. Okay. If they separate, right? One choose the big animal, one choose a small one. So they are not able to hunt down the big animal. Okay. So the payoff is 1. And we go home, pick some fruits, and that's it. Okay. But if one is going to get big and small, the hare, the one to get the small animal, actually get a lot because there's no competition to get number 8. Okay. So this can be represented by the matrix here. We have 2 villager can choose big animal and small animal, right? And these are payoff. Okay. So let's check what are the equilibriums, right? Or are there any? Okay. Remember how we check is for every single cell, you check whether triple won't deviate. So you check the first upper left corner, we have stagger and stack with 10 and 10. So check each player, do they choose other option that can make them better? Under 10 and 10, if player 1 switch from stack to hare, they got 8, then that's not the case, there's not going to deviation happen. Is player 2 going to change from 10 stack to hare? It's going to reduce from 10 to 8. So this, luckily 10, 10, or stack and stack is an equilibrium. Okay. And we check the next one, hare and stack. In this case, actually player 1 want to switch, right, from 8 to 10. Or player 2 want to switch from stack to hare, 1 to 5, right? So this is not. Okay. By symmetry, you know this upper right corner is not an isogram as well. What remains to check is the last one, 5 and 5. Is it also an equilibrium? Okay, we check every single agent, 5 and 5. Is player 1 want to switch from hare to stack? No, because 5 is better than 1. Similarly, player 2 is going to change from 5 to 1? No. So here we can see we have 2 Nash equilibriums or equilibria. Okay. And in this particular case, you can see one is better than the other, right? In terms of Pareto dominance. Okay. And 10 is better than 5, 10 better than 5. So this is more efficient than this one. Okay. So the question would be, okay, which is your prediction, right? We know that one better than the other. Okay. Is it the case that we always end up here? Or can we end up in here? Okay. And game theory doesn't tell us which one to pick. Okay. Up to our knowledge we have. So you can say, okay, one equilibrium as an economist would think 10 and 10 is more likely to happen, right? Because it's better for everyone, right? If what they call pre-play communication, they just talk. Let's go for the big animal. Okay. If they do that, okay, which is not cause, they just talk, right? And before they go it, then you have this one. All right. So that's why when villager, right, in the society, before they go, right, they will have a ceremony, they will say, let's go fight for the big animal. And then they sing a song before they go, right? And then they do it, right? What the cheerleader do, right? Go, 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 right? This kind of thing, right? And then they would just, before they go, they will not make mistake. And this is also what we call leadership or the manager as well. It's more clear, right? Manager actually coordinate, right? The worker direct them to a better equilibrium, right? What the firm do is to get them to the right position, right? And that distinguish the good manager and bad manager, right? And in political science, right, that is what leader or political leader do, right? People don't know how to choose, okay? And the leader actually tell you that, okay, we should go in this direction, and everybody go to the direction, problem solved, right? Because people have the problem of which one to coordinate, all right, which one to do, and this is leader may know this is better, okay, and they would, and actually this give the explanation why CEO get paid more, right? CEO actually not doing anything by telling people, okay, let's go here, okay. As long as they take $2 from each guy, the firm still works, right? As long as they take $2 from Hunter 1 and $2 from Hunter 2, right? No one want to deal from that, right? He got the payment $4 by just telling people what to do, right? He just sit in the office, right? Drinking his coffee and get 4 unit of payoff, right? Charging them, right? So that is the manager, right? Is that okay? So that's why you see this is the Pareto superior equilibrium, right? So that means that if you solve this kind of model, you say there's multiple equilibrium, and we allow communication, and that is what we have is the Pareto optimal one. Okay. And probably you ask, what is the formal concept behind it? Which we will talk about this. This is later you will see is related to what we call the collision-proof equilibrium or strong equilibrium. But we'll talk about that at the very end of this set of slides. Okay. Here's another one, which may be more relevant to you than me. Okay. This one is a boy and a girl. Okay. But now and this game is invented in the 60s where no mobile phone. Okay. There are no pagers. Okay. And after the class of microeconomic theory, right, they were tired and want to have some fun. Okay. A boy and girl want to decide where to go. Right. They don't want to do assignment, of course. They will get 0 payoff if go home and do assignment, right? It's bad. Okay. No one want to solve assignment problem. Okay. And because the boy and girl just enjoy being each other, maybe relationship or whatever, they will be happy if they just go out, hang around, get one. If the boy get to see football, this is US, this is, I think is the American football, not soccer, but whatever you think is sport, the boy will get extra, and girl will get extra for the opera. Okay, so that's the game. So you can easily check, I think, by now. There are 2 next equilibrium here. One is opera, the other is football. Let's check it carefully. Look at this opera. Girl want to change? No, because CO2. Boy want to change? No. And this one you can check. Girl don't want to go up because could become 0. Boy don't want to deviate. That is the best you can do already. So this is 2 outcome. That is next equilibrium. You can check the other 0 cannot be a equilibrium as well. So it's not clear which one is the solution, right? Can you tell me what's the prediction? Okay, the best we can do is to predict opera and football. Okay, so that's a prediction, right? So without any additional information, we can't say too much. Now What if I told you this is in Shandong? What is your guess? What's your guess? If it's in Shandong or Dongbei, what's your guess? Or Korea? Of course, you will see football and football, right? That's what happened, right? What happened if it's in Shanghai? Everyone knows the answer, right? Must be opera, right? There's no other choice, right? Because that is the what we call the Thomas Schelling's focal point, right? What the social norm would say, right? Right? That would be the idea, right? Is based on the social context, which one would the case, right? If we have suppose we have a boy, right, and a girl, and then the girl actually said, I'd like to go to opera, right? He declared, right? And then probably opera is the case, right? It really depends on communication also works, right? Because the girl said, I go to opera no matter what. Okay, then opera will be there, right? Or the girl said, I hate football, and that's it. No matter what, I hate football, and that's a solution there, right? And that is how it works, right? Or now it's easier, right? The girl can simply go to WeChat 朋友圈 and said, okay, no more football tonight. Then the boy would understand what's going on there, right? And then go to opera, right? Because of that is what we call the money burning, or doing something extra, removing this, right? To make sure that the item is not there. You burn the bridge, right? So this is one of the model, okay? And another game is a little bit reverse. It's called anti-coordination game. It's two guys. This is actually a very famous game in the 60s in US, a crazy game. Okay? The two gangs, they want to fight for a woman or fight for an argument. Okay, it's like a duel. Okay, two guys, they have a motorcycle, right? By the bike, they run into each other on a straight line. So number guy A is like here, I stand here, the other guy be over there. Okay, they run towards each other. Okay, either the car or the bike. Okay, and so they try to see who is more brave. The one that's more brave with the winner, right? So if they all go straight, two guys, the car explode and all die -10. Okay. And chicken in the American slang means afraid coward, means that they don't have courage. Okay. If both of them are so afraid, they just turn around, they got all zero because they lose faces. Okay, that's fine. They have life, that's okay. Okay. But if guy number one chicken, the guy straight, then this number two is brave, right? We know for the argument of the woman they like, and then the other guy get -2. Okay, so this is the payoff. Okay, I think by now you can check easily. The only two outcomes are chicken straight and chicken straight, right? Because this is the worst outcome you can have, right? I don't want to die, right? It's okay to lose argument. I don't want to die, right? If that guy a chicken, I want to actually go straight, right? So at the end, it's like this, right? In the end, is either one guy is chicken, the other guy, right? And what's the prediction? What's the prediction? Okay. You can't say anything, right? But you will see both equilibrium actually is not good, right? If you try to add up the equilibrium, not Pareto efficient, but just payoff, okay? If they can somehow add up is 0, add up -1, right? So if they all chicken, actually it's good, right? But we end up, because of the conflict, we end up in something not so good. Okay, so this anti-coordination game, right? And if you do environment, this is actually what it is, right? It's either, especially we have environmental people here, right? This is whether you pollute or not polluting, right? That's a, say for example, we have a Paris Protocol, right? Paris, I think, Kyoto Accord, right? Those kind of stuff, right? If the best thing is no one pollute, right? The best for the world, right? But if you don't pollute, then I want to pollute, right? Because you don't want to pollute nothing, I pollute something. As long as it's within the range, that's fine, right? But if all do pollute, then end of the world, boom, explode, right? So at least we avoid the explosion of the world, right? But we end up in overpollution, right? The best case is everyone go green, but not possible. Okay. Now let's revisit this old item we just discussed, right? The personal dynamic. We'll discuss that -6 and 6 is the only dominant solvable, right? Because if you don't slip a thing, this is outcome. And you can easily check this is also a Nash equilibrium, right? -6 is better than -9. -6 is better than -9, right? So D and D is also the Nash equilibrium. Okay, so that is something probably you will not be surprised to see, because this only unique outcome after removing dominant strategy. Okay, so now we understand different type of game. So we try to define Nash equilibrium in a more academic understanding, because we need to define best response that would help us to solve Nash equilibrium in a better sense. And this is how we solve Nash equilibrium, because if the strategy is continuous, actually you can't check every single possible outcome, right? So how do we solve this is by solving what we call the best response. And we look at the intersection of the best response. That will be the Nash equilibrium. Okay, but let's define one by one, and you understand what I'm doing. So strategy SI is the best response to other strategy, means that SI star give you no worse than other strategy facing other people's choices. It's called the best response. Okay, and there are more than one, so that's why I say a best response. It doesn't follow the English thing. It's not the best response, because there can be more than one strategy that will be best according to given the other people. So this is the best way to deal with the opponent. It's called the best response. Okay. And we have some terminology here. Probably learn function in mathematics is 1-to-1, right? Sorry, function is like you give me one element, I give you one element, right? It's just like it's a mapping, and a set function or correspondence is you instead mapping to one element, you did multiple element there. Okay, so we call best response correspondence, means that at the end you give me the strategy of other player. You need to give me the set of strategy that is best response to others. So you tell me all possible strategy that is the best, okay, to others. Okay, that is called the best response correspondence. Okay, and the first time you learn this is you would be very confused why we have this, but this is just mathematical way to describe. When you are you give you is a set instead of element. Okay, it's a set function, set value function. Okay. Of course, if you define the range is the set that is not needed, but that is how we define it. Okay. So here is how we define mathematically the Nash equilibrium. This is how you will solve Nash equilibrium at the graduate level, right? You find the best response, and next equilibrium is what we call mutual best response. Is profile where for each agent, right, a strategy is a best response, is element of best response given other strategy, right? So given other strategy, this is the best we can do, then there's no deviation, right? So that is the technical definition, and this is usually how you would solve it out, okay? And okay, is that okay? Now, finally, we come to the most abstract definition of Nash equilibrium. It's called a fixed point, okay? So we collect bunch of best response correspondence to everyone. So best response is a Nash equilibrium will be a fixed point, whether the list of best response, you give me a strategy, you give me this, the same thing, the fixed point. Fixed point means you give me the search profile after the best response mapping map to itself, okay, as an element of that. So that is the most challenging one, okay? Of course, I'll give you less abstract idea, but that will be what we do. And if you have 2-player games, okay, you can plot this, and the intersection will be my solution. But let me give you a more precise example that probably it will make you feel happier. Okay. So the general model is like this. We have seen Carnot model with n firm, downward sloping demand. Okay. Now we have to be careful. So the strategy, instead of from 0 to infinity, we have to make upper bound Q bar. The reason is being that the Q bar is this value, this is 0 already. Okay. And later you will see by making it a compact set, there's always exists equilibrium. So that's why we need them. And there's no distinction between any Q bar more, because no one will buy anyway, right? No one will pay for that anyway. And the function is like this, right? And there's a product function is like this, okay? So there's nothing new in this perspective. So how do we define best correspondence? Okay, it's looking at other. Oh, there's still typo here. It's a minus I. Okay, let's say payoff depends on your production, other production. This is the profit. Then there will be a set of quantity that would maximize, right? Oh, sorry, there are 2 typo here. I'm sorry about that. So there should be there's no pen here. Here should be small q, and here should be q minus I here. So there are 2 typo here. Okay. And the next equilibrium will be all possible quantity, and this is in the best response for each one. Okay, and that's why when collect them, then that is a mapping there. Okay, so this is super probably abstract if you're not from math background. So let's look at the example. I hope this would convince you this is the way that how you solve the model. Okay, and if you learn that as undergrad, that is something like a little bit challenging for you. Okay, so consider we have 2 firms, firm 1 and firm 2. Okay, and with linear demand, and we have a linear cost function. Okay, and the profit maximization will be is your price minus cost, right? This is a price, right? It's a revenue minus cost, and quantity is a profit. Okay, and this one you can easily see that. Okay, for firm I, each firm I, right, depends on the other firm production. Okay, then what's best response? Best response is given other people choice, what they're going to do, right? So suppose you have firm I, say I is 1, right? So given this, what the best thing to do, right? That is standard optimization problem, right? Q2 is given. You just take the partial derivative, right? Because quadratic, you can easily solve it out, right? And remember, I is U, J is given. So you can always solve for what is the optimal QI by making QI the subject, right? So this is the best response because you give me the QJ, what is best for QI, right? So this is the beta function, right? So in this case, there is only one number, so that's the best response function. But in general, this can be more than one. Okay, later you will see how we do more than one, but this is how we solve it out. And remember how to solve the Nash equilibrium, we solve the mutual best response, which means that you solve it for firm I and firm J, right? So they combine these two, right? So that means that you have a system of equation, okay, which might or may not have solution, but in this case it's linear, so everything has solution, right? So you can solve it out, the system, okay, give you the corner outcome, a minus 0/3. Okay, I think this is, you know where how to solve it, right? I don't need to bother you with that, which I should have give you the assignment, I mean, maybe today or tomorrow, I mean, for the last two classes. Again, only 2 questions, don't worry. Okay. But here would be the best response curve, right? Say if, how do you see this? This, right? Beta 1 Q2, right? Is coming from this. Okay. If QJ is 0, okay, Q2 is 0, Q1 is a minus 0/2. Okay. So repeat, if Q2 is 0, Q1 is a minus 0/2. Okay. And if we ask Q1 is 0, what do we have? If this is 0, this is a minus C, right? Because you get a minus C minus a minus C equal to 0, right? And this is linear. So as long as you get one point, you get the other point, straight line, it's linear. Okay. You can impose the same symmetry for the 2, a minus 0/2. This is a minus C, right? And the only intercept is here, which is a minus 0/3. So that's equilibrium. So that's how you should solve the problem. Okay. And in the best response manner. Okay. And is that okay? Now, if you want to do it in the break, you can try this, or you can try this at home for fun. How do you define Bertrand gain? Okay. Who the player set? How to define a strategy? How to define power function? How to draw the best response? And you're able to deliver because we know the answer already. So the only challenge for this is how to write them properly. Okay. And that will be an important challenge for you to try. Here, I want to say before the break is how do we relate the 2 concepts we study, right? The first thing we study is dominance or iterated universal dominance strategy, IESDS, okay? And we talk about Nash equilibrium, how are these concepts related, right? Because strict dominance actually require much less calculation, right? Just take away, people think that it's stupid, I take away, right? And I keep taking away those, not too much. And Nash equilibrium actually require some calculation, right? Because why Nash equilibrium is there is we have to guess that we are there, okay? We're somewhere there. We're stuck there, then we are not going to move, right? Because it's not prediction. You're saying that if we're there, no one to deviate, right? It's not say we end up there, right? So how can these two concepts related? Okay, you can do the math, okay, which we don't, but you can check any textbook is there. You can easily check if you keep deleting things, okay. If at the end you only have one guy, that must be Nash equilibrium, right? Actually, we see in the personal dilemma case, right? If there's a unique prediction, it must be Nash equilibrium. Okay? And that is not surprising at all because you take away something stupid. That is something that should be usually done, right? The more interesting part is the second bullet point, which I think is good and we can use it, is Nash equilibrium must be the outcome that survive this elimination, right? That means that if the Nash equilibrium is stronger, so if you want to solve Nash equilibrium, we can first actually do elimination first to make the game simple and solve a Nash equilibrium we find. Okay. So actually, in some sense, that is what I do when we write this. Okay. If we are care Nash equilibrium, this assumption can be assumed without loss of generality, right? Because if I produce more than that, I have zero profit. I have more cost. My profit negative, right? And negative profit is strictly dominated, no matter what, right? No matter what the other people do, right? Getting zero is not producing anything is better, right? If you produce zero, you get zero, right? So zero is better than anything bigger than Q bar, all right? So anything slightly bigger than Q bar is strictly dominated, right? So that's why if your interest is just solve for Nash equilibrium, you can always do this without loss of generality, right? Of course, if you are expecting something more, then this may be harmful restriction, right? But I hope this makes sense, okay? And when you do solve your model, you should try to do this, and you can see some paper they do this, right? Because you just try to exclude things that is unreasonable, and then you keep doing this for every agent, and then you become a smaller set, then you can solve the model much easier. Okay. So after the break, we will talk about mixed strategy, and you will see the way we should solve this model is by best response. Okay. The way that you do usually you learn undergrad, or if you learn the first course, it's not complete. You have to start from the first principle, solve from the best response, then you will solve out all Nash equilibrium. Otherwise, you'll miss something. Okay, it's very important that when you solve equilibrium, you have to solve the whole set. Okay, if you pick up something, okay, have to be very careful. Okay, because that is not what you predict, right? So let's have a break of 15 minutes, and we'll resume in 15 minutes time, and then we'll talk about how to find mixed strategy. Okay, I think that is very useful.
So I hope you have a nice break. So we continue our not mixed strategy. So I think we talk about this problem where
there doesn't exist a pure strategy, a standard idea of a Nash equilibrium. I mean, that means that choosing a particular strategy is not going to have a solution. And we do know that in this particular context, randomization is the way to go, right? That's how we play play and scissors. We don't let people know, not to let the opponent know what we are choosing, right? So how to formalize this is in game theory is called the mixed strategy. And the idea is like instead of choosing a strategy, you are choosing a probability distribution over the strategy, right? So you assign a number between 0 to 1, but must add to 1 to all strategy, right? So that means that your strategy instead of the strategy space S is the simplex based on the SI, right? So that's notation. Usually we use this, the simplex of the SI. So it's a distribution probability over the strategy space. And the payoff function, now we have to use expected utility theory, is given by because randomized. So it's just based on this is the probability that particular strategy profile realized, right? Because it's the randomization is independent. Okay, that's what we assume because it's non-coded game. So randomized independently. So this S we realize will be this probability, right? Because this is independent, right? Independent, the probability of products, right? Probably P, probably A and B, if they're independent, probably A times probably B, right? So that means that the probability S arise times the utility. That is expected utility theory, right? And that is the model, right? Now we can easily define Nash equilibrium in the same context, right? We're saying that given other people's strategy, this star strategy better than the no star, any non-star version, right? As long as it is a weakly better is fine, right? We can't find a strategy that is strictly better than the M star, then I'm done. So the same thing happened. So now let's solve this one. We'll progress slowly because that would be how we solve this kind of problem. Can't be fast. Yeah. So we have two choices, X and T and X and T. How to solve this? Now the strategy space is no longer X or T, but rather a probability distribution over X and T, right? And there will be PX and PT, but they must add up to 1. So under the constraint, that means that just a one number, right? Okay, so I call it R, and this must be 1 minus R. And I call it Q and 1 minus Q, right? So basically, the strategy space is from discrete H or T, but become a probability to the H, right? For two agents, right? It's not H or T, it's how likely you choose H, okay? And indicated by probability between 0 to 1. So become a discrete to continuous, right? So here we have something a little bit slightly convoluted, okay, although write this way, but so this one is what is the utility, right? You would get the payoff under the strategy M1, M2, right? On M1, M2 is you have M1, M2 to the H, right? It's R and Q, you get -1, right? -1 is coming from where? Coming from here. Okay, from here, right? This is the 1. Right, this -1, right? And if your T and H, right? T and H will be here 1, right? So that is how you get R times 1 is Q1, 1 minus Q1, and 1 is R minus Q minus 1. So that's how you get this expression. And once you simplify, you get this one, okay? -2Q minus 1 and times 2R minus 1. So do remind you that player one choosing R. Okay. Player one is R such that to maximize the payoff. Okay. And of course, it's very tempting to do differentiation, right? When you take the derivative, right? Because you're maximizing a function, right? So it's linear, so it's simple, right? That turned out to be something like this. Okay. And to solve the maximum, right, you know, set to 0, right? And you set to 0, that means that Q is equal to 1/2, right? So that will be the optimal, right? And why that's optimal? Because of later you will see, but that would be the best response, right? Is cannot be found because you can't solve for R, right? Because remember, you want to find the maximum R, right? And this one has no R. Then what's the maximum R here? Nothing you can do, right? And in particular, if Q equal to 1/2, this is 0, right? That means it's Q 1/2, no matter what you do, no matter what R, there's no difference, right? R 0, R equal to 1, the pair is the same. Okay. And if Q is less than 1/2, okay, this become positive, right? That means that you would want to increase R as much as possible, right? And if Q is bigger than 1/2, you want to R as small as possible, right? Because negative. Okay. And actually, this tells you the following best response correspondence. Okay. When Q is less than 1/2, you got to as big as possible, 1. When Q is bigger than 1/2, you get a 0 because as small as possible. And Q is 1/2 is no matter what number is. So this is correspondent because this one, you can take anything, right? As I said, not in particular. So this is a little bit more complicated. Okay, and this is the way you should do it at graduate level, right? I already discussed the proof here to explain why you have that. Okay. Now you want to solve this nicely, then probably you want to draw a graph. What's best response? Okay, I jump ahead a little bit. Okay. Focus on the red first because we'll talk about blue afterward, right? So remember, when Q is more than 1/2, you would choose 0, right? When Q is less than 1/2, you choose 1. Otherwise, you choose anything. So the red one is the representation, right? Because best response is for whatever Q, right? What is the R, right? Now you can do the same for player 2, okay? And if you look at check this and there's no Q there, there's no unit optimal for every scenario, okay? And turn out to be, right? If there's 1/2, then you do whatever. And if bigger than 1/2, you would do the max, right? If less than 1/2, then you do 0, right? So it means this is the blue one, right? Less than 1/2, you do 0. More than 1/2, you do 1. Otherwise, it's the vertical. So you can see in this case, only the green one is the Nash equilibrium. Okay, and this is the formal way to solve this problem. And of course, you may say, okay, this is not the way I understand undergrad, right? But very soon, let me show you the next example. You will see the benefit of doing formally. Okay. So okay for this example. Now we go to so this is only equilibrium here. Okay. So let's see this example battle of sexes. Okay. Opera football. And we know that already from our previous analysis, opera, football, and football are the pure strategy Nash equilibrium. So we want to see whether they're mixed strategy equilibrium, right? And then we again set R, 1 minus R, Q, 1 minus Q. Okay. You can do the same and solve this out, right? This utility, expect utility. And because player 1 choose R and we take the derivative over R, right? This is 3Q minus 1, right? And depending on Q is bigger than 1/3 or less than 1/3, you will decide what to do. If Q is large enough, then you will do 1, right? If Q less than 1/3, you do 0, otherwise you do anything is fine. All right. Now the same you can apply to the boy, and you do notice that is again when R is big enough, Q will be big, right? When Q is 2/3, then R is anything, right? So if you try to draw this, okay, it turns out like this graph. Okay, you should be able to draw it on your own, right? It's 1/3 is 0. Look at 1/3 is 1, and the same here. Okay, so you can see the intersection actually have 3 green dots. Is 0, 1, right? And 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, and 2/3, 1/3, right? And 1, 1, right, is the opera. 0, 0 is football, right? And here we have R is a girl with 2/3 of time choose opera, right? 1/3 of time choosing football, and boy will be 1/3 of time choosing the opera, 2/3 of time choosing the football. So that would be the outcome here. Okay. And you do notice that the mixed strategy can end up in bad outcome, right? Because it end up they don't meet each other, the randomized, right? So there can be possibly improvement, right? But they can't because of the way that the game is behaving, right? I mean, it's better they not do this, right? But you can end up in this kind of randomization, right? In business practice, you can imagine this is actually, if you go to our seminar in our department, actually it's a model of sales, right? If you try to model firms' pricing strategy, it's mainly mixed strategy, right? No firm is clearly more expensive than others, right? For some products, some firm is cheaper, the other is some other product, the other firm is cheaper, right? And which product is cheaper is not clear as well, right? Sometimes this is cheaper, some of the other firm is cheaper. So they're doing mixed strategy like this. Okay. But anyway, we'll talk about it later. So this is probably you learn in the undergrad, or if you learn the first class, that's how you solve for the probability. It's called the indifference condition, right? That's how you learn is, okay, holding the other guy's strategy, mixed strategy, you indifferent between the two strategies, right? I think that's how you learn, right? This is not the way you learn. You probably learn the way to solve this is, this is R, this is Q, and this 1 minus Q, right? You would say, if girl choose opera, the payoff is 2Q, right? And 1 minus Q times 0, right? And if player 2 choose football, the payoff is 1 minus Q, right? Because this is 0 times Q and 1 minus Q times 1, right? Then you can solve Q equal to 1/3, right? So that sometimes just solve very quickly, right? Because of the two action, then when you are mixing, right? Then it must be the case that for the girl, it doesn't really matter which one to choose, right? Suppose you're asked to mix opera and football. It must be the case that the girl doesn't really matter which one to choose, right? If it's clear that girl would be benefit by choosing opera, they cannot mix it, right? If the mix, then it must be the case that I don't care. Then I would choose a con. Otherwise, I would just, okay, why I choose that? I just choose a particular subject, right? So particular strategy, right? Otherwise, we dominate it, right? You cannot be dominated by that. So that means that you can solve in this way. But if you solve in this way, you miss out the pure strategy, right? So that's why the way I do it is more general, right? Because this is suppose the way you solve in your solution. Always solve for the best response and figure out what to do. Okay. And this is what you see in the undergrad, right? The randomization, as I said, is I randomize to make you indifferent between what you're choosing. Okay. And you randomize, make me indifferent between what I'm choosing. Right. So in that case, the equilibrium, so we're randomizing, we don't care what we choose, right? Because rock, paper, and scissors idea, right? I'm not fixing one. Okay. So that you don't the same to you for everything. And you are mixing to make me the same for rock, paper, or scissors. Okay. And to randomize is make sure that you can't guess what I'm doing. This is the same for me and same to you. So this is the main idea. Okay. And this is how you solve it. Okay. Now here comes to the Ware-Field slide that is a note. Okay. First would be you will ask, is Nash equilibrium always exist? Okay. And the question would be, if you allow mixed strategy, okay, and Nash have shown, actually that is the main result. I think that's one reason why he got Nobel Prize, is to show that if the number of players are finite, okay, and the strategies are finite, okay, then Nash equilibrium always exists. Okay. And if you look at the history, actually John Nash actually take his undergraduate paper, okay, he proved this using his own math, okay, and show it to at that time the genius von Neumann, right? And then von Neumann said it's just a fixed point theorem, because Nash equilibrium is fixed point, right? And there's a well-known fixed point theorem, so in that it all exists. And John undergraduate thesis is on the paper just like 20-something pages and proving that. And when Norman told him it's just fixed point theorem. So you look at the 1950 paper, it's just 1-page proof. I called it originally had 20-something pages, sent it to Van Neumann. What I'm saying is fixed point theorem. But anyway, I mean, of course, it's not the math that John Nash is doing. It's amazing. It's because it's the way he solved the problem, right? He's figured out that, okay, this is the way to proceed, because before that, no one knows how to do it, right? Because you look at the history, where Neumann, Morgenstern, the book, basically only able to solve, they call the zero-sum game, right? Or some 2% non-zero-sum game is basically solving 2% game. And most of game you can't solve, you can't easily do things. But it's Nash who come up with the idea, who actually can trace back to Carnot as well, right? And that is the main reason why it's good, because Carnot is not applied to every single game. So that's why we still call Nash. Some people call Carnot Nash, but most people could call Nash because he's the one who discovered allowing mixed strategy is the way to go ahead, right? If you have to stick on the pure strategy, you can't go too far. Okay. Of course, if you think mathematically, that is rather trivial answer, but the breakthrough is non-trivial. Now here comes to another important result, okay, which is often applied in business context or application, is we are not happy with finite number of strategy, right? Because the Carnot game, choosing production level is continuous, right? I mean, it's okay to have finite agent, right? I don't think you would complain we only allow number of the players finite, right? The only drawback is usually we want to model the strategy space is say infinite, right? It's a set that allow many components because real number you can choose from. Okay. So the question is, okay, is it exist equilibrium? Okay. So around the same year, there's a proof there, and it can be shown that as long as your strategy set is compact and convex, and you'll be satisfied in our standard Euclidean space. Closed and bound means compact, right? And convex means anything in the middle also there, right? And usually when we talk about the standard Euclidean space, right? You choose number, or no matter any dimension, finite dimension is fine. Okay, as long as you make it nice. Okay, that is usually not a big problem, right? Because you choose the number, right? And a list of number is also no problem. And the second one, the payoff is continuous. This part is in general okay, but sometimes it's not. Say auction, it's not continuous, right? There's only one winner. If you bid $1 more, maybe you win, right? 1 cent more suddenly change from loser to winner, right? And in that case, not continuous, right? Of course, there will be a lot of paper talking about how to solve this problem, but that's another. But in general, that's not a big deal. Okay, continuous. And the last one is slightly a little bit not so easy. Continuous is fine, but this is quasi-concave. It's slightly little bit hard to check. Okay, but of course, quasi-concave is easy to check, right? But quasi-concave is not that so easy. Okay, but as long as you really assume this exists, okay, and in general, you would make your model, right, to follow this assumption, and then make sure that you would have the problem solved. Okay, so as long as this satisfied, exists. Okay, so you're happy now. I mean, as long as just make sure if you want to make your game, okay, just make sure that these criteria satisfy, and then you don't end up with no equilibrium. Right? Otherwise, you make the game, you set it very fancy game, and then turn out that this not exist, then end of the world, right? Now, I think I mentioned about the game about pricing. So let me go to an example, which is also very famous. Example of discount. I mean, people who do marketing would know this is one of the earlier paper that try to explain discount or sales as a mixed strategy. Okay? And here we have a end firm and continuum of customers. So don't worry, the customers are not player. So we have continuum that doesn't hurt our story. Okay. And types of customer are either informed or uninformed. Informed means the consumer have a lot of free time. He don't like to shop around and look at the price, so he's well informed for all the prices. Okay, he knows every single price in the market. This is one extreme type. In the other type of customer is uninformed. Okay, they are the other extreme cases. They don't like to shop. They just know the firm they know, and just go there. Okay, maybe Apple. Every time in September, October, there's a new iPhone comes out, they don't care. They just go and buy. Okay? They don't care the price. Just go and buy. Okay. Okay. Of course, they not pay infinite, right? There's willingness to pay is we. Okay, same for two types. Okay, and the size of the market we normalize to 1. I pursue 1. Okay, and to make simple, we make somewhat we call Bertrand competition, right? Firms are competing in price. Okay, because I want to study the price behavior, right? So that's why I don't use Carnot. So it's a Bertrand competition with some consumer know all the prices and some consumer doesn't know the price except one company. There are many companies, but anyway, there are some company, they have what we call loyal friends. So we are looking at net equilibrium. So without loss generality, we focus on firms are charging the price between C and B, right? Because below C is making losses, so strictly dominated. Charging more than we actually want to buy, so we can safely ignore them anyway, right? So the profit function for each firm will be given by the following. Depends on where you are the lowest among all, right? If your price is not the lowest, right? Your PR is not the minimum of all the firm except you, right? There's all other prices. In that case, you would be making this profit by selling to the customer that only loyal to you, right? U is split among N firms, okay? Because there's uninformed guy is that each firm would have U over N loyal customer. Okay? And if you are one of the lowest, okay, then you will get to sell at the price you propose. You get loyal customer, and part of the shoppers where they actually shop around I, and K is the number of people that same as price U. If you're the unique lowest, K is 1, so you get the whole market. So that would be the setup. K is the number of firm that charging lowest price. So suppose firm I is the only guy charging lower price, K is 1. If 2 guys charging same lowest price, 2. Okay, so if you try to look at this is the following, right? Graphically, is every firm would have access to its loyal base, no matter what price it charges, as long as below V, right? And depend on how many people charge per chance, right? If you're lowest, then you get a share. If you're the only one lowest, you get the whole thing. If 2 of them, you get split by 2, you get 3 of them split by 3. If N of them charge the lower price, split by N. Okay, so that would be the thing. Okay, that's the graphical. Is that clear, the setup? Okay, it's very simple, right? It's per chance, but just say that there's some customer that's loyal to you, right? Which is very simple model, right? It's nothing very deep, right? So what Varian did is very smartly, he tried to show that, okay, in this model, there is no pure strategy Nash equilibrium. And what you left is mixed strategy. And he explained mixed strategy is the reason why you will see discount doesn't appear in the same store. And every time you go to the store, you check about the price. You keep going up and down because if you keep charging the low price, then you can't make any profit, right? Because you have loyal customer. So you occasionally charge low and high price. Okay. Okay, let's see how we prove it. I mean, it's very simple proof. So let me go for it quickly. Okay. So look at 2 cases. Suppose we consider outcome where more than one firm are charging lowest price. Okay? Maybe more than one firm charging lowest among all, right? We claim this cannot be equilibrium. Why? Suppose the lowest price is below the V, right? And in that case, there are 2 firms there. One of the particular firm just slightly lower. You get the whole market there. Standard per chance context, right? If not lowest, just steal the market. But it can't be equilibrium. Then what happens is you undercut to the end, right? Undercut to the C, right? And you get C, which means that you get no profit at all. So that means that one of the firm will just say, okay, no way, I just going to get some profit by charging my loyal base, right? So it can't be A. And if the lowest price is actually equal to the maximum they're willing to pay, then one firm can just basically sell lower and grab the whole market, right? Actually, same as this one as well. Okay. Now consider there's only single firm that charge lowest price. Okay. What did I write? That other firm charge the highest price possible. Oh, okay. So, so basically this is, so one firm is the lowest, the other firm are higher than that guy. So in that case, the other firm actually are not, maybe I should rewrite the English, but the other firm are charging, must be charging the maximum, right? Because one firm is lower, the other firm are not getting any I, so they must be charging V, right? Otherwise, it can't be equilibrium. But if, right, if other people is V, right, and you are, the firm is below V, right? Then there's no equilibrium, because if you're below V, you always want to get closer to V. So the idea is like this, okay? Consider the case where you're firm 1, firm 2, firm 3, okay, suppose, right? And you can only charge the maximum is V, right? The minimum is C, right? If all other firms are, I don't know, is where, somewhere here, right? And this firm 1 is here, right? It must be the case firm 2 go into V, right? Firm 2 go to V, right? Because they're sure they're not getting they're not getting anything in the I. So go to the maximum V, right? And go to maximum V, that means that firm 1 would actually not start here. Want to increase, right? Increase, but where to stop? Nothing to stop, because you cannot approach V, right? When there could be V, but you keep approaching V. There's no such number they can stop. So that means that there's no number you can stop there. So that means that there's no pure surge equilibrium, right? There's no way you can stop, right? So suppose V is 10, right? You can charge 9, 99, 99999, but what's the number? There's no such number, right? So that is the idea, that you can't find any pure surge nest equilibrium. Okay. So how do we solve this model? Actually, he solved the mixed strategy Nash equilibrium. Assume every firm use the same strategy. They call symmetric equilibrium. Every firm use the same mixed strategy using the CDF of P, right? And CDF is just like the lower bound, upper bound, right? The supremum, infimum. Okay. And F is a PDF, assume defensible. Okay. And I don't want to go to the proof, but here the main thing is to show you that there's no mass point there. Okay. I mean, I think the proof is, I can go over that, but it's not complicated. But I don't think we have time for that. But we can talk about that next class if you want to. But what it said is, you from a lower bound, some number, up to some upper bound V, okay, up to there, and there's no point mass there. Okay. And that is the equilibrium he do, but I think we can explain this one. Okay. So it would show you that the maximum they charge is V. Okay. And what's the minimum? Okay. If you charge the maximum V, that is what you get, right? The V minus C is the profit margin times uninformed. So you screw up all the loyal customer there. If you charge the lowest possible, because everyone's randomizing over a thing, right? So it's pure mixed strategy. So it means that there's no one would be same as you, right? You for sure get everyone in the I, right? So that's why this minus this times this guy, they should be same, because you're maxing over this. It must be the case they give you same payoff. We just argue, right? You're maxing over things, you are indifferent over them, right? This is charging the lowest price, this has a maximum price. Okay. And here is you're charging lower price, you're charging the price intermediate. All right. You get the intermediate price, this intermediate profit margin. This is the lower customer. And this is the probability that you are the lowest. Right? There's no tie, right? Because you're randomizing, right? There's no mass there. So the probability that there's a tie is probably 0. So you only care about where the lowest. Right? So it's just 1 minus P raised to the n minus 1, right? Because there's a joint probability that you're the lowest. Right? If you lower the other firm, it's 1 minus FP, right? Lower the other guy, 1 minus FP squared, so on and so forth, right? Because you look at the other guy, what's probability that is more than P, 1 minus FP, right? Because F is less than that, right? So you look at all other firm, every other firm is charging more than P, then you're the winner, right? N minus 1 firm. So this is the model. So that is explain the reason why you have firms, say, supermarket, right? Each week they do discount, right? And discount, what they discount is different. And the magnitude is also different as well, right? Well, because besides you, the N minus 1 firm, right? Because you're the lowest, then you can, everyone is doing the same F, right? Symmetrically, everyone's doing the same F. And I set my P, I only lowest if for you charge FP, right? F of P is probably you charge less than P. 1 minus FP is your price higher than my price. So you have to make sure everyone is higher than you, then you get this. Otherwise, you don't get this, right? Very good. So the last few slides I want to discuss is very advanced, but I just give you some idea. You can check out the literature to see how we do it. But I think this slide is very important because this is how you select equilibrium. Although the details I don't give you, but I think it's very important. First one, because there are many equilibria, how can you refine them? The first one is we call trembling hand refinement. Okay. And I hope you remember what's wiki dominated. Wiki dominated means that they're the same in some cases, but they are not. It's here. Remember the wiki dominated. It's somewhere here. Weak dominance. With dominance. Okay. A strategy that is sometimes worse off, sometimes the same, but we're going to take it away. Okay. Not always worse off, but there's some strategy that is sometimes is the same, sometimes better, slightly better. Okay. And sometimes you want to take them away. Okay. How can we justify this idea? And I think the Shelton, one of the Nobel Prize winner, he said there's what we call trembling hand refinement. Is you're pressing a button, right? Trembling hand means you are shaking. Right? Then you don't know which one you're going to pick, right? Then in order to avoid the problem, you pick the wrong thing, you take away the weakly dominant strategy. Okay. So you don't want to trembling hand, you don't want to make the same, but sometimes they're worse off, right? You don't want this problem. So we just, okay, take away them. Okay. So we don't need to understand why, but this will remove those. And the other predominance, as I said, right? If they can collaborate, they can talk, this repeated game argument, they keep doing things, they can talk, then they will end up in prior to optimal. And the other one is a little bit strong. It's called the strong equilibrium. Okay. So far, we said Nash equilibrium is one guy deviate, right? But can we allow two guys that go together? They agreed, say in the village case, right? The villager do make the decision, right? But can we allow them jointly? They can sign a contract, they move together. Okay. If we allow them to sign contract, binding contract, that is called strong equilibrium. Okay. Is any subset of player can deviate together. Okay. That is called strong equilibrium. As long as they can write a contract which is enforceable, that will be the appropriate solution concept. Okay. It's called group deviation. Okay. The other one is weaker. They call collision-proof net equilibrium, which said they really can't write a contract, right? It's possible that they break away from this. One of them want to deviate again, right? So if they can't write a binding contract, this kind of joint deviation must be self-enforcing, right? So that means that it had to be credible, right? That in a sense, right? Suppose there's a group of people who do robbery or treasure hunting, okay? And maybe I don't have to follow the group, right? I can just basically, maybe I'm very smart, but I'm not very strong, but I can team up with the smart guy, okay? The strong guy, and go to do the treasure hunting. We can get better, okay? If that's the case, then it's a strong equilibrium. But the problem is, if I team up with a strong guy, we do it, then he may actually kill me and get all the treasure we got. All right. So once we deviate from that, then it can be further deviation may happen. So that means the what we call collision proof. Okay. And it's weaker. Why we want it weaker? Because this usually doesn't exist, and this is more likely to exist. Okay? If this fails, this can go again. Okay. These two will be often you see in the literature as well. This one, particularly this one. And the last one, you also often see that actually in many contexts is called, we focus on particular players, okay? And we know that these players are strong, okay? Suppose, as I said, battle of sexes, okay? In Shandong, you choose which one? In Shanghai, you choose which one, right? Or in terms of firm, you may say upstream optimal strategy, upstream optimal equilibrium, or downstream optimal equilibrium, or firm optimal equilibrium, right? Depends on what you think, who is stronger. Or a social norm, this thing are not model, but we can actually select. But of course, you can say that we are allowed to do this because we don't actually fully do the model. We do reduce form modeling, right? If you actually want to understand it, actually we should model more stuff. But that is what we have. Okay, if you want to keep the simple model. So there are finally there are some equilibrium concept that is beyond Nash equilibrium, but I'm not going to talk about those. If in case you're interested, I can take a look on those. That when you can't solve your model, then probably you would want to go for that. Okay. And I guess that's end of. You can look at the summary. I don't have time to talk about that, but we will review next class at the beginning. Then we will talk about those. So I think that's the end for today, and I will upload the assignment maybe today or tomorrow. Just 2 questions. 1 question for the equilibrium. 1 question for uncertainty. Just 2 questions. Okay. So I'll see you next week. Okay. See you tomorrow. No, see you next week. I'm done to answer any question you might have.